PlasticsEurope Akdeniz Bölge Başkanı Sayın Daniele Ferrari'yi kürsüye davet etmek istiyorum. Sayın Ferrari bize plastik endüstrisindeki zorluklardan bahsedecek.
Thank you very much. Welcome to everybody, and a particular thank to PAGEV and its president, Mr. Ruizal, of course, which has invited me to talk in this important venue. I had the privilege to chair yesterday this Mediterranean Advisory Board for PlasticsEurope, which is, I tell you, an interesting experience. And being here in Turkey and listening to the different countries with you, and when we come to the Turkey review, understanding the growth and the perspective of the GDP growth, I can tell you there are many countries in Europe that will sign on at the worst case of growth that you have here in Turkey. So we are really excited about this country, this region, and I think it's full of opportunity. We will see today many presentations about the technicalities of plastics, very high technicalities and very high studies on application, green or traditional. So my presentation will not go into the details. What I wanted to show you is fundamentally to go back to the beginning of the plastic world, and more important to see what kind of challenges we have ahead to maintain this material on the forefront of the choice of material for the future. So we call it challenges and opportunities. Obviously, this challenge started in the year 40, and see, I was biased. I took a television advertising from the Italian television in the past, and this guy was talking about planning. It was one problem that changed our life. I was a little kid, and I remember this at the television. Essentially, plastics started to rise when they started to change from military to civil application around the year 40s, 50s. And this is the discontinuity. So one point I want you to remember during this presentation is that every point of discontinuity, whether it's a war, whether it's a financial crisis, gives us an opportunity to think about our business model, to think about our future. And obviously plastic is always in the past and will in the future play an important role in this continuity. We talk about plastic society or kind of revolution, but what was driven this revolution from? And certainly 4 points. Curiosity, which is a natural drive for revolution, for industrial revolutions. The love for science. There was a lot of research, there is still a lot of research behind plastics. Innovation. And clearly, an industry approach that has developed all of this and put together for the future. Plastic is so pervasive within ourselves, is even in our body, and we have heard this morning through the presentations, that it is not possible that we go away. I don't think we can turn around and watch in some direction without seeing an element that has been made with plastics, whether it's more advanced plastics or more basic. Commodity plastic doesn't matter. This is the reality of our life and it's in our today life. So I think we talk about this continuity and we talk about the fact that it will be in future our major challenge. I think I want to concentrate on one subject here, which we discussed very highly yesterday, and it's the end of the life of plastic, or essentially the second, the third, or the fourth life of plastic. I think there are countries here that are more virtuous than others, so I think we should take examples on how countries arrive to eliminate almost entirely the landfill of plastic, but between the valorization to make energy and between the recycling has been able to really avoid landfilling almost completely. So I think we should take example of that and think about this as a sustainability factor. I bet you to sign on a piece of paper how many times you will hear the word sustainability today between now and the end of the day. I cannot avoid to think about one example of plastics when I think about the aircraft industry. If you see what happened between 20 years ago and now, you see the aircraft industry evolving completely into the world of plastics. And you see aircraft today of the second or the third generation being up to 30% made of plastic, on composite of plastic. So I think this is a trend that is not going to stop, it's going to add efficiency, it's adding technicalities in every part of the plastic that they go to replace other materials. So I think if I have to pick up one industry that is really incredible in terms of adoption of plastics, I think the aircraft is a great example, and I'm sure you will see many others during the day. I want to go with you quickly around what we need to do now as an association, as a producer, as a consumers as well, in order to make sure that plastic remains and continues to develop in future as the material of choice. And I have a couple of slides on what we call it the ticking, the to-do list. So certainly consensus. I mean, we've been hearing about the activities that PlasticsEurope in every ramification of the association, whether it's a European, national association, producers or producers of machinery, they all do about reaching consensus and about really making our reputation high in the industry so that plastics remains the material of choice. There is a lot of work, and we have heard Mr. Rosai this morning talking about investment in his region, about improving the integration for raw materials. And it's a big challenge for the plastic industry to continue to improve integration, reach economy of scale, so that the plastic becomes not only viable, but economically viable for the future. So manufacturing costs is part of that. We have a big responsibility in training professionals. In talking to university, and I was glad to see in the video about the activities that you are all doing on school and at each different level. This is very important to create the awareness and to create the interest for the future student to become professional in the plastic industry. This is one of our choices, and this is one of our duties. We spoke about environmental issues. You know how much it's important to change the perception of the people that see a plastic bag or a plastic bottle on the ground and think that plastic is bad for them. We need to start educating people that we can do so many things with that plastic bag. First of all, we use it, or make it in a biodegradable way so it doesn't break, possibly, or do many other things with the plastic bottle, recycling at least 2 or 3 times. And when you have finished to recycle that, you can always burn it to make energy, which is obviously a much clever way of using the drop of oil rather than burn inefficiently immediately. So there's a lot to do on educating people about the environmental issue and changing their perception. We spoke about research and development, which is obviously the son of innovation, which is really talking about continuing to improve the technical applications and the technical characteristics of the plastics. And I think the industry is doing so much around that. And there is clearly the aspect of new raw materials, new feedstock or bio-feedstock. And I don't think there is any competition here. None of us wants competition between bioplastic and traditional plastics. I think there is space and application that accommodates both. I think there is a lot of applications that will demand in future and will ask us to develop biodegradable plastics. And I think the industry is responding to that responsibly. We spoke about recycling and we spoke about people awareness. I think if you keep in mind this 12 points, I think, and you act responsible around those 12 points, I think we are able to increase the awareness of plastics in the future and making sure that it continues to contribute on what are the main themes that will have sustainability. You see, I will not go into the details of each of them, because I'm sure you will see it during the day, but we know how much plastic is doing for food, communication, we know for climate change, maintaining the CO2 level, lightness and transportation. We know how much is contributing to the preservation of water, again, the increase of energy efficiency, and obviously the healthcare when we talk about medical application. I want to take a few minutes to tell you now about the future and the way I see essentially the gradual development of our macroeconomics. I mean, there is something like some milestones that we cannot neglect. I mean, there is something which is telling us that there is obviously a move of financial power gradually from the States, from the traditional United States into the area of Asia Pacific and particularly to China. There is clearly the development of an almost consumer market where we're not in the past. So clearly you have the BRICS countries, you have demographics that are changing. Again, we were talking about the percentage of young people yesterday between Turkey and the traditional European countries, and it's so hugely different. And this is what is giving the society the possibility to imprint more consumption and obviously more interest and more growth. So Europe is lagging behind. There is no doubt about this. Political instability, economic instability. And there was a lot of investment in the Middle East in the chemical industry, but there is also a lot of increasing political instability in the area of the Gulf. So these are, for me, four aspects that are going to influence our choice as a producer and as an association to think about where to put our product, where to develop our product line and application. And obviously the financial crisis has been exacerbated that even further. So the 2009 was pushing this kind of phenomenon to identify four things that will change the world, are changing the world, to keep in mind in any of our business plan. I think this is certainly one. Clearly plastics plays the role in our mega trend. When you talk about climate, energy, society and culture, and when you talk about change of demographics, this is where you have to think about and you have to consider the world in the future. So there are so many applications that essentially will help the plastic to continue to develop. When you talk about one in particular, I want to remember, it's very relevant to this country and to this region, the need to improve the food chain and how much plastic has contributed to that in terms of creating a microclimate to harvest much more than what you can harvest without the greenhouse, or to use deep irrigation so you can save water and you can irrigate exactly where you live with the right frequency. So this has helped to reduce more than 50% of the waste material in the food chain to arrive in the more ambitious country with about 3%. So there is still a lot of work to do and a lot of opportunity for our industry to develop products in this great area. I want to remember Ray Hammond that was looking in his famous book to the world in 2030 and to think about what are the key drivers that will change our world: climate, population, globalization, energy, health, and technological development. In each of these sectors, plastic is playing this important role for the future. So our responsibility is to continue to make sure that this happens, is to continue to make sure that this happens responsibly, but more important, sustainable. Sustainability is really in every aspect of our job, is to do something that we preserve the world that we have today for the future generation. So I will invite here all of you to reflect on that during the day. I've seen the plan. There is a lot of splendid presentations in the program today. We'll talk about that, and I'm sure at the end of the day we will have an interesting concept all developed about how important plastic is in the world. Thank you very much.